And they're recognizable because they slide on their belly through the snow, which leaves a pretty distinct mark.
Oh, wow. They're so fun.
Goofy little things.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm starting the recording now, Mary.
Okay.
Hi, Dan. Yep, so whenever you feel like starting, do you want me to introduce myself first, or you say first and then?
If you can introduce whatever it is that you want to say from the library's end and get all of your bits in the beginning, and then pass it over whenever you're ready for me to take over.
Sounds like a plan. Okay, I'll go ahead. Hello, my name's Andrea Herman, and I'm the team lead for Tinker Tuesdays, which is now monthly and virtual for 2021. Stay tuned. We should have the next Tinker Tuesday should be on the calendar in a day or two. I'll talk about some of our other programs at the end as well that are coming up. We have Read Brave and some other cool stuff going on. And I'm also the coordinator of the Innovation Lab at the George Latimer Library, which is open for members. I think we have a member. I think Dan is a member. We might have some other members of the lab here. Hi. I see some regulars from Tinker Tuesday as well, so thanks for coming. And this is going to be recorded to put on our page. So now I will introduce Mary Henke-Haney from the Education Coordinator of the Parks Department, and she's going to talk to us about native seeds.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks so much for being here. This is really exciting. I know I've been talking with libraries about doing programs together for a while now, and we've slowly started and then kind of got a little bit derailed last year. So exciting to be here virtually with all of you. Just some quick sort of housekeeping things here at the beginning. If you have a question at any point during the program, if you're willing to maybe like wait on it just a little bit to see if it gets answered, and if it becomes obvious that it won't, you can either toss it in the chat is actually the easiest way. You can throw it in there anytime. If you're uncomfortable with that and need to pipe up, I think we're a small enough group that if you absolutely feel you need to go off mute and ask a question, go for it. Otherwise, I'll make sure we leave time at the end of each section to see if there's things that we missed. We will have a short break in the middle just after we put together the balls themselves, because sometimes, depending on what type of person you are, your hands might get a little bit messy, so we'll give you a chance to wash your hands if you are one of those people. I suppose we can actually have an input line here. So during the course of the program, we're going to be talking about, I'll introduce myself and my program. We'll talk a little bit about the role of seed balls. I'm so excited all of you are here because you have a role in ecological restoration and making our urban ecosystem stronger and healthier. So thanks for being here and helping us with that. So we'll talk a little bit about that ecological restoration and what the role of seed balls can be in that. We'll take some time to actually construct our seed balls. Your kit should have enough to make 5 or 6 of them. You probably shouldn't make them individually, just mix them all up together and then we'll split them out. Then we'll talk about, well, then we'll wash our hands, then we'll talk a little bit about what you can do with those seed balls, because we actually have some places, you don't have to throw them all in your auntie's backyard. We have places that would benefit from their presence. And we'll talk a little bit about other ways that you can tinker with our parks, including some volunteer things and some community science. We'll have plenty of time for all the questions that we missed at the end, and then we'll wrap up. Are there any questions about kind of this layout here before we get started?
Yeah, and I'll try to keep track of any questions that come up in the chat.
Okay, sounds good. So I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Mary Henke-Haney. As Andrea said, I am the education coordinator for the Natural Resources team within St. Paul Natural Resources. So St. Paul Natural Resources is a section within Parks and Rec. We're responsible for maintaining all of the natural areas in St. Paul. So a couple different programs there. It's our urban forestry program. They're the folks responsible for maintaining the health of our urban forests, so all the trees on public land. We have a gardening program that maintains all of our in-ground and raised garden beds with the help of volunteers. We have our habitat management team, so we have 2 year-round staff there, and they are responsible for maintaining 2,300 acres of natural parkland in St. Paul. So that's 2,300 football fields worth of natural landscapes that we have here in St. Paul. So if it's not mowed, if it's not a soccer field, if there isn't a building there, it's just trees or prairie or river, that's going to be our habitat folks. We rely a whole lot on volunteers to help us take care of this. We have a large city with a lot of great resources. We rely on people like all of you, even to help us keep it all in check. And we have an environmental education program, which is me. I'm here to help make sure that people in our city understand the work that my colleagues are doing, why they're doing it, and how it benefits all of us, helping us understand that St. Paul's an ecosystem, right, with a lot of diverse and interconnected parts that rely on each other to survive. So we do that in a couple ways, the education program. Throughout the year, we have wildlife surveys that we do in our parks to see what's living out here. Some of you, I think most of you were already on when we were talking about otters in Crosby Farm Regional Park. We know they're there. We just don't always get to see them. So we do programs with the public to try to get out there and help people see those things that are usually invisible. We do large celebrations and bio blitzes where we go out to a park and try to find as many things as we possibly can, see what's living there. We partner with youth serving organizations like mobile camps from the YMCA, and we do kind of nature play and large group activities throughout the year as well with partner organizations such as the library, just relying on getting as many people involved as we can. So that's who we are. And a large part of our job is doing this ecological restoration work. What is that all about? So St. Paul is an ecosystem, as I said. It has a lot of diverse and interconnected parts that rely on each other to survive and thrive. Our ecosystem is made up of lots of living things. That includes people, it includes trees, but it also includes non-living things like water and rocks. That's part of what makes an ecosystem an ecosystem. It's made up of natural things like hawks, but also man-made things like power lines. They are absolutely a part of our ecosystem. And all these things are connected and rely on each other. So butterflies need flowers for food, but also people need food, and we need a lot of other things too. So we as humans rely on the living and non-living things around us to keep us healthy. So for example, trees filter out particulate air pollution that help us breathe, especially people with any sort of breathing issues like asthma. Grasses and wildflowers have, especially the native ones, have deep root systems that help filter contaminants out of our water, the water that we drink, that we swim in, that we maybe go fishing with. Especially if we eat that fish, we want that water to be clean. Pollinators, they help produce the food we eat. We've heard a lot about pollinators in the past couple of years. And just all the different living things that are interacting with each other. Bats that eat the mosquitoes that cause us unpleasantness in the summer when we're outside. So we as humans fare best when our ecosystems are healthy and when everything's balanced. So it's totally fine to have, you know, all the things that we enjoy in our modern life, but we have to understand that our ecosystem is there to support us, and it can only do that if we support it as well. So keeping all of that in balance. Now, for a long time, St. Paul was stewarded by the Dakota people who lived here, and they kept that ecosystem in balance through their lifestyle. But in just the past 200 years here, since Europeans arrived and have began colonizing, we started introducing a lot of pretty major changes into our ecosystem, and they started happening really fast. And a healthy ecosystem, like when it started, can be insulated from a lot of major changes. But if you keep those changes and the pressure on that ecosystem for a long time, it can start to get out of balance. So in some places, we've unbalanced our ecosystem, and there's work that we need to do to get it back in a balanced place so that it can be healthy and it can thrive and it can be insulated against future changes or stressors that happen, especially as we have climate change coming on. That's going to be a significant source of stress on our ecosystem. And if we can get it strong and healthy, it's going to be able to weather those changes a little bit better. So the role that myself and my colleagues have is to really try to keep our ecosystem balanced and healthy and have strong biodiversity. And it's hard work. So I'll throw this link in the chat here while we're talking. I should have gotten this to Andrea ahead of time. But there's a great game if you want to know anything about the challenges of balancing an ecosystem from scratch. There's a great game on PBS Kids' website called Make a Mangrove. And you get to go in there and you are starting it from scratch. And you're trying to balance that ecosystem from nothing. And you can try it later and find out how easy or difficult it is. We have a benefit here in St. Paul that we're not building an ecosystem from scratch. We just have to take the parts of our ecosystem that are strong and healthy in our parks and make the parts that need some help, give them a little bit more support to make them stronger and healthier. And that's what we're trying to do here. We want as many people in the city to be able to understand what makes those parts stronger and healthier and to actually get out there and do it. So one of the ways that we do that was with seed balls. Seed balls are a really great tool for us as restoration professionals, and they're especially great for engaging people like all of you. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start thinking about, we're going to start putting these actually together. So in your kit, you should have gotten a bunch of the supplies for it, and we'll kind of walk through it. Starting with, what is a seed ball? Maybe you had an idea when you signed up for this program of what it is. A seed ball is a small ball. Sometimes in the past, I've seen other organizations make them, and they were very large, kind of jawbreaker size things. When we do them, we keep them small. It's a small ball of soil, clay, and seeds that you mix together, and you let it dry a little bit so that it holds its shape. And then you can bring it to a park and just toss it somewhere. Well, it doesn't have to be a park. You can toss it any place where you have permission from the landowner. And it turns out seed balls aren't really a great way to plant a garden. So they're a little bit too chaotic, and they're not a great way to, raise well-tended and cared for or tame plants, because they're a little bit more wild in how they work, but they're really great for taking them and just throwing them and introducing new species of seeds into an area where they may not be established yet. And that's what we're going to be doing here. So if you want to take your seed ball and throw it in your auntie's backyard and grow some flowers there, you're certainly welcome to. But know that those seeds might not all germinate initially in the first year. It might take a couple years, and it's going to be kind of a wild, crazy little patch. But we have wild, crazy patches in our parks, and it's a great way to introduce new biodiversity there. So to get started, if you in your kits want to pull out, you should have a small coin envelope approximately like this one, all sealed up, that has seeds in it, and you are welcome to pop that open and get a little look at those seeds. You can dump them into your mixing container if you have them, and I just want you to take a couple minutes and poke through and put on your magnifying glasses if you have them, and just see if you can identify maybe how many different seeds in there. Can you see what sets some of the seeds apart? And if anybody's willing to go off mute or to throw in the chat a description of anything that they see in that little seed packet, you are welcome to share what you see.
Well, Oh yeah, I forgot my container. I'll be right back.
I might have just dumped mine on the table in front of me.
Let's see what we got here. Yeah, fuzz, I was gonna say, kind of fuzzy. Then there's tiny ones. They're more like tiny rectangles.
Do we think, can anybody try to get an accurate number of how many seeds they think they see in theirs?
Oh yeah, there's some little round ones too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, grains of wheat. I don't know, maybe 4? What do you guys think?
Seeds.
I got kicked out and I have to scoot through here. But we'll go through the seeds one by one and we'll see if you can see what's in there just as soon as my presentation can catch up to me.
You can just admire the pretty bird.
Okay, so you should see the fuzzy one. We'll get to another one, but if there's a fuzzy one that you see in there, maybe kind of long and spindly, that's going to be little blue stem, which is a pretty common one around St. Paul. It's a clumping grass, and especially in fall, it takes on a bluish, purplish, reddish sort of look. So it's kind of got this one it's well established.
I like that one. I think Mary got frozen. We'll have to wait a sec for her to come back. Anyone else have blue stem? I definitely have some. Oh,
Yeah, I got a
hi,
bunch.
Cindy. Yeah.
I don't know why I got kicked out. The ones that look like wheat, that's going to be our next one. That's another type of grass. It's called side oats grama.
I don't see the presentation. I just see.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it back
Mm-hmm.
back up because I got kicked out and I don't know what that's about. So I'm going to leave my camera off and see if that might prevent me from getting kicked out again. I've never had that issue with Teams before. Does anybody have small, round, kind of chunky looking seeds? I didn't see any of these in mine.
I think so.
But because they're round and chunky, sometimes they sink to the bottom and they don't always mix in very well. But in theory, there should in this seed, this is the side oats grama. So it's a clumping grass with seeds coming off the side. These round kind of chunky ones are purple prairie clover.
Ooh, yeah, I like clover.
They're kind of little fuzzy bombs. They're a legume. They're in the pea family, so they put nitrogen back in the soil.
Nice.
Very similar to purple prairie clover. Again, I don't have either of these ones in my packet, but if there are any lucky winners out there that got some of these, you can brag about it to all your friends. Canada milk vetch is another legume. So it's got kind of creamy white colored flowers. If you found this is very small, so smaller than a dime, kind of a brownish colored one. That's going to be purple coneflower, which is a very iconic prairie species.
Yeah.
Sometimes this kind of cream colored coating on the seed comes off and then it's just a little black one inside. So most of mine are just tiny little black specks, which is very easily confused with the other tiny little black specks, which is going to be gray-headed coneflower. So another very common and iconic prairie species. So those are going to be our seeds. You can go ahead and put your seeds. Well, they're probably already in your container. I dumped mine on the table so I can see them a little bit better. So you have your seeds in there. The next thing we can do is grab your little packet of soil. So it should be in a little coin envelope, just like the seeds were. It's going to be slightly larger, and it's going to be labeled soil. And I want you to be gentle when you dump that out.
I have 2 packets of seeds, one that came in a little envelope and one that's actually a separate bag. Do I put those in too?
You can if you would like to, but there should be a packet of milkweed seeds. Where did I put mine? I already lost them. We'll put the video on. So this little packet here these were donated to us a number of years ago, and we're still handing them out. So you can do with this packet whatever you want.
Uh-oh, I think you got frozen, Mary. It sounds like milkweed are good for butterflies, so that's good. And thanks to Cindy. Cindy's here today. She put these packages together very nicely with the nice handwriting. Thanks, Cindy. And the descriptive.
Please don't scrutinize my handwriting too closely.
It's like 20 times better than mine. Gotta roll up my sleeves so I don't get dirty.
That's no fun.
Well, these are this is a dress shirt, so.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't dress up for gardening. Maybe I should have changed. I like your bookshelves, Dan. You've got a lot of books.
Yeah.
So as do I, as you can imagine.
Never have
Hi,
enough.
Mary.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, I'm not messing around with video anymore. I'm done with video, so I'm just gonna have to talk you through it. So you should have your
audio's fine, and I can show people things too.
Yeah, this has never happened to me before, so apologize for it wouldn't be a virtual program without weird glitches.
Wouldn't be a virtual program if something didn't happen.
So you should have your container with your seeds, and you're just going to take your soil packet, and just if you can be gentle when you pour it in there. The soil is very dry, and it's possible that it can let some dust in, and I just don't want you to inhale a whole lot of dry dust. So just kind of get that in there. So the seeds obviously are the bread and butter. That's or the butter, depends on what you eat the bread and butter for. But that's what we're trying to do there. The soil we add because it's going to hold a little bit more moisture, and it's going to be a nice growing medium for the seeds once they're put out in a park or backyard or wherever it is that they end up going. But it also helps the seed ball break down a little bit. We don't want it to stay a ball forever. We want it a ball so that it's easy to throw. And then we want it to disintegrate once it finds the ground and slowly falls apart. So the clay is going to be your next little envelope here. This is your binding agent. This is the thing that's going to hold the soil and the seeds together and give them a shape and a structure. The clay is also powdered, so that's another one you can go ahead and open it and gently pour it in there. Again, just being aware that if you get too wild, you might end up inhaling some clay, which isn't what we're going for here. So we added our seeds, we added our soil, we added our clay, and the last step is water. So this is the biggest mistake that people make when making these is just dumping a bunch of water in there. And less is more with the water. So you can start with just a tiny bit of water, even like a half a teaspoon, and start from there as you go. So you can give it a little stir, and then just add maybe a half teaspoon of water, and then you start stirring it. If you're one of those wild, messy people, you can use your fingers. I like to use, I actually have a tongue depressor right now, and I'm just going to slowly and gently mix it around so that I'm not, again, getting all the dry dirt and the clay into the air. And you do want it to stick together. So if you put in half a teaspoon and you notice it still looks a little dry or it's not sticking together, just keep adding water a tiny bit at a time. If you accidentally go wild and pour a ton of water in there, it is not the end of the world. It just means you're going to have a sticky, sloppy seed ball that's going to take a little bit longer to dry. So once you have it to a spot where you think it's sticking together reasonably well, I stir mine with a popsicle stick here. You can start to kind of press it to the side of your container. And this little demo here, the pictures, I was just making one. But what you can do is you can pull out, you're looking for a little ball about the diameter of a dime or a nickel. So if you've gotten enough water in there that it can actually stick together, you can use either your utensil. I end up using my hands because it's the only way to get a good ball. I just put a little bit in the palm of my hand, and then you squeeze it together and roll it up until it starts resembling a ball. And once you have one of them together, you can set that one aside in a place where it can dry, and you grab another one. So if we measured out following the recipe that I usually use, and we did, you should be able to get 5 or 6 of them out of it. If you want to go big and make them slightly larger and only make 4, that's fine. You can make them smaller if you want, but they're harder to throw when they're smaller. And if anybody wants to share what their experience is here mixing.
It's kind of fun.
Too.
Spring seems a good time to get your hands in the dirt.
Yeah, spring's actually, I don't know if people are going to get mad at me if I ask the question of, are we going to get more snow? Do we think there's more snow coming? Ooh, that looks nice, Andrea.
Thank you. It's quite possible.
Because the snow really does help break the balls down once they're they're out. So we were excited to do this program here in March, because if we still get snow in April, that's a great time to get them out there. Some of these seeds, in order to germinate, they need to go through a period of cold and hot, kind of a cold stratification period. So we were storing them in the freezer all winter, and then we'll try to get them out here. Before it's too late in the season. But these seeds are pretty resilient, so if we don't get any snow, they might just take an extra season to germinate and start growing for us. Is anybody having trouble or have questions at this stage? Or are they coming together more or less according to plan? Now that everybody has mud all over their hands and they don't want to type on their computer and they're muted so they can't go off mute.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh,
she's torturing us here.
Leave my computer.
All right. So far, so good for some, it looks like.
But if we have a big rain, it won't hurt the seeds, right? Because they'll be protected in the balls.
Nope. Well, that would actually, the big rain is going to help the ball fall apart and get those seeds into the actual ground where they'll start growing.
Oh, good. So,
some of them absolutely might start sprouting while it's still all sealed up, but you can imagine if you have that your whole packet of seeds trying to grow in the exact same spot, it gets a little hard. So actually we want snow is a little bit more, it's more of a bully and would break it apart more and faster, but plenty of rain would also work to break it up and spread the seeds out a little bit.
And then you're going to talk about places to drop them off later, right?
Yep. After you get a chance to wash off your hands, we'll pull up the map, and we can even start talking about where you are. We have you should have gotten in your packet a map of our 6 preferred parks, areas that we are actively restoring now that we think could really benefit from having these seed balls thrown there. But if any of you feel inspired and have alternative locations in public parks, we can talk about what your ideas are and see if that's a good spot to put them. Please do not put your seed ball anywhere that you do not have permission to put it.
So that's my seed balls. Does that look good?
Oh, those look great.
Nice.
Yeah, they look awesome.
Nice.
You got so many.
I got 6. But one of them is a little tiny, so okay.
Oh, it's so exciting to actually see them. This program has existed in my head for so long that I forgot that in the end, they'd actually be seed balls.
Here's mine.
Ah, so good. Did anybody just put way too much water in and now they're regretting their heavy-handed water addition? So far, they didn't look super sloppy. Whenever you finish them, you can go ahead and wash up your hands if they got messy. And I'm going to ask for some sort of indication when people are back, just to let us know that you're washed up and ready to go. So if that's, I'm taking notes here on who we have, but if you just want to either go off mute and tell us, if you want to throw something in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand or do any of the reactions here within Teams across the top. or if you've never used Teams and you're totally confused about how to do the chat or where the reactions are, the easiest is just unmute yourself, hit your little microphone icon, and just tell us what you need.
If there's anyone who didn't get the map, like they're doing this, but they don't have the kit, just let me know and I can send it to you. Let me see if I can do it as an attachment.
When we have realistic goals, you really can schedule them and put them in a planner and hold yourself accountable for them. And then creating yourself a feedback loop.
And there's the map. It's been a while since I had actual dirt under my nails.
It's hard when it all gets buried. Oh. Okay, I think I've seen a couple people. I think the only person I haven't seen go off mute or make any sort of indication was Karen. And I apologize if I pronounced that terribly, but if you could give us some sort of indication that your hands are washed and you're ready to go, otherwise we'll keep waiting a little bit. Does anybody have questions or comments at this point? Funny joke.
So because of the clay, they won't fall apart when they dry out?
Yeah, that is the idea. We played with, okay, great, thanks, Karen. We played with the recipe a little bit, just to see that we got it right. Usually we don't do this program with pre-measured little bits. Usually I set it up at a table in a place and people kind of scoop their own as they go. So I found that when I set out directions and measuring spoons and tell children of all ages, actual children to adult children, how much to put in, they always turn out fine. So I'm hoping that's, if I measure them as well as the miscellaneous people that go through go through the line. But yeah, they usually dry up. They're not going to be like hard because again, we want them to be able to crumble. They should dry up sturdy enough to not crumble and sturdy enough to be able to throw them. But it's a balancing act because you don't want them so strong and durable that it takes them, you know, months to fall apart once they're on the ground. So clay's just there to hold it all together like a glue.
Yeah, but as long as they can form balls, right, that's
Yep.
the right proportion, basically.
Yeah, I didn't actually keep a kit for myself, but I did kind of eyeball throw some pieces together here at home just to make sure that I was pacing things all right. And I did not put enough clay in, so mine here at home, it turns out if you just eyeball it and try to mix things together, that is not a skill that I have yet, so we're gonna have to add some more clay to those. But we can keep going then. So this is the map that you would have gotten in your kits. There are 5 parks on here that are priority areas. These are active restoration areas this year that this seed mix would do really well at. So one of those is anywhere along the Como Lake shore. So if you want to take a little travel to Como Lake, do a walk around the lake, I think it's 1.6 miles to do a lap there, especially now that the weather's nice. This is a short grass prairie seed mix, so anything along that lake shore is gonna be good. Have any of you been to Trout Brook Nature Sanctuary before?
No.
That one's a relatively new park. It is right off of 35 between Maryland and Cayuga. I'm actually going to switch and I'm going to go over to the projecting map here. So Trout Brook Nature Sanctuary is a long, skinny park between Maryland and Cayuga, Jackson, and 35E. It's a great spot. It officially opened in 2015, so pretty new, but also pretty spectacular. When it was initially planted, there were a lot of grasses put in, but the wildflowers were a little bit sparser. It's taken them some time. So anywhere in this park, if you want to get in here, anywhere you can toss your seed ball, and that would be just fine. Another new park that's still in kind of the getting it off the ground is Victoria Park here on the east end, kind of by 35 and West 7th. So right at the top of the bluff, if you see on the map this red area over here, we have the park here. We have some paths going through the park. Not all of them are shown. Again, short grass prairie, so you're looking for something that's not mowed turf grass and doesn't have trees overhead. If you toss it in a forest, none of these seeds are going to get enough light and none of these plants are going to be particularly happy. But if you find some kind of wild looking grassland in Victoria Park, that also works. Some of you overheard Andrea and I talking about Bruce Vento Nature Sanctuary, which is my favorite park in St. Paul. It's over by Union Depot below Mounds Bluff, or Mounds Park Regional, Mounds Regional Park. So it's at the bottom of the bluff here. You can park and enter off of Commercial Street underneath the Kellogg Street Bridge. And again, this can go anywhere in the park, but if you wander down the trail a little bit, this kind of middle section of the park is kind of where we think would benefit the most from getting these seeds and adding that biodiversity. Phalen, anywhere along the Phalen Lake shore would be fine. Phalen is a much larger lake, so if you're going to walk around it, just make sure you got to wear some good walking shoes. But we do have an active restoration happening, very active. The lake shore is in nice shape. above the Lakeside Activities Center, there's a savanna restoration going in right here. So this address is 1530 Phelan Drive, and you can see some grassland underneath oak trees. So it's not a forest. I know I said don't put it under trees because they won't get any light, but a few scattered big oak trees is just fine. If you're unsure about that, anywhere along the lakeshore is fine. Was that all of them? That was all of them. So you're welcome to go to one park and toss all your seed balls. You're welcome to, I would encourage you to visit all of the parks because I think they're all great and deserving of your presence. This is a great opportunity to visit a park that you've never been to before, especially some of the newer ones that are a little bit more tucked away. But again, if you want to put this in a park, you can throw out your ideas. Someone said they really like Crosby. So there is some short grass prairie. It might be tall grass prairie, but the seeds will do fine in a tall grass prairie too. On the way from the parking lot, the pavilion or the bathroom shelter at Crosby, if you walk through the open area over to the lake, there's some tall grass that you can toss this in if you felt inspired. Do people have other places that they were interested in putting their seed balls and they want to know if it's a good spot? Or, and this can go for private property too if you want to know if your backyard is a good spot for it.
Well, I live near the river on Marion Park, the Grand Round, so it's kind of like all a skinny little park.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be okay to put these in?
A lot of that is really wooded, and a little bit too shady. It gets a lot of sun now, but it's not going to be as happy once the leaves actually pop up. Marion Park, let me. I think Crosby is probably the best spot along the river for it because there is that open area. But anything, yeah, even Denoyer Park is up kind of at the top corner of St. Paul over there. Has a lot of trees. So for Marion Park, if you want to keep it at the river, I would take it down to Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
So I live downtown,
Mm-hmm.
and there's the Lake Harriet Island Park, Kelly's Landing and that.
Yeah. So there are some kind of more ornamental plantings there. So if you see anything planted in straight lines or pretty shapes, keep it out of there because folks are definitely gonna, our horticulture crews are gonna come in and pull these out as weeds if they're growing in a space they don't belong. After the flooding, there's a rain garden there that was, I don't know if it's been replanted yet. It hadn't been redone as of last spring, I don't think. So anywhere, if it's mowed turf grass, don't do it. There's a rain garden kind of by where you get on the showboats.
Right. Yeah, further down from there.
Yeah, or if you get into, if you keep going down the trail and make the transition from Harriet Island to Lilydale, anywhere in Lilydale that doesn't have thick trees overhead would be just fine also. Yeah, Lilydale hasn't had a whole lot of active restoration lately, so they can definitely benefit from some more. Okay, I should have been advancing through these. I was too focused on what I was talking about. So other ways that you can tinker in our parks. So I said we rely on volunteers to help us get the actual work done. We also rely on volunteers to let us know what's going on in our parks. Oh, actually. I thought maybe I could also give you a deadline. So one way that you can come out and tinker in our parks is on April 24th, we're having our annual citywide spring cleanup. So we're crossing our fingers that all of the snow will be gone. And as we know, when the snow melts, it leaves behind all of the accumulated garbage. So we always encourage folks to come out. There are going to be kickoff host sites across the city, all following COVID procedures. So if you haven't gotten rid of your seed balls by April 24th, you can come by and we provide garbage bags and gloves for you to go out and pick up some garbage in your community. And while you're out there, you can remove the garbage and add your seeds. So it's kind of like a double benefit of removing the bad and adding the good. Something that I like to encourage people to do is participate in community science projects and become part of the informal St. Paul Wildlife Monitoring Network. So there's one particular smartphone app. You can also do it with a camera and a computer. So anybody that is capable of doing Teams on this call has the ability to participate in iNaturalist. So community science is just, if you are not aware of it, is a way to mobilize ordinary people around the world to participate in data collection and scientific analysis. So they're scientists, or sometimes professional, sometimes amateur scientists out there, and they're just collecting data from all of you. So iNaturalist is a nice one because it's broad. There are citizens or community science projects that have to do with weather watching. So you can Coco Roz, you put a rain gauge in your backyard and you report how much precipitation you get in that gauge. There's things like Journey North, which is the monarch migration project, where people just say when they start seeing or stop seeing monarchs. It's projects like that that actually made us figure out that monarchs go to Mexico for the winter. But I like iNaturalist because it's very broad and it lets you do a lot of things. So I'm just going to talk you a little bit through iNaturalist because when you go out to the park and you deposit your seed ball, you can also bring the smartphone app and start tinkering and providing us at the city with some pretty valuable data about what's happening in our parks. So it is a smartphone app that empowers people like you everywhere in the world to find cool things, signs of life, take pictures, and then share it. So anybody can access what people have seen. So if we pull up the app and we open it on our phone, we can click on the bottom left-hand corner here that says Explore, and it'll pull up a map and all the sightings around you. So right here, this is around the central library, and you can see all the green dots are plants that people have observed. I'm trying to remember the colors. I think blue might be birds. So it shows you all the plants, the birds, the mammals, the insects or arthropods, and things that people have seen. So you can just click on, let's say we see there's a pin in Rice Park here. We click on that pin and we can see that somebody on May 2nd, 2020 found small white leeks in Rice Park. So if you're in a park and you want to know what's growing around you, you can pull it up and explore what other people have seen. Or if you spot something that you think is cool, like a neat flower, you can take a picture of it and observe it. So to do that, you put the app on your phone. You're going to need to create an account. It's not terribly scary. But you open it up and it'll keep track of all the things that you've observed. So these are all the things that I have observed. Unfortunately, most of the animals that I observe are dead in the road. So if you happen to go in here and look up my stuff, you'll see some gruesome things. But if you spot something new, you can click on the camera at the bottom and say observe, and it'll pull up your camera, and you can just take a picture of whatever it is you're observing. So if you spot a cat around town, you take a picture. If you like the picture, you say next. If you think it's a terrible picture and you want to retake it, you can say retake. I encourage people to take multiple photos of showing what you actually have. So if you see the flower and you think the flower's great, you can also take a picture zoomed out. So get a picture showing what it is you thought was so cool. Zoom out to show the context. You know, it's going to help other people identify if you don't already know what this is. So a zoomed out picture and maybe a picture of some part of the plant that's not quite as exciting. And add all of those. The neat thing about iNaturalist is it can help you identify what it is. So you click on the question mark and say, what did you see? And it's going to pull up a suggested list. Take it with a grain of salt. Somebody I know once took a picture of a snake, a garter snake that it was a stick. They took a picture of a stick on the ground and thought, what kind of tree is this from? And the app said, is that a garter snake? And it was not. So look at the suggestions and see if that seems reasonable. You can click on it. I think Felis as the genus seems reasonable. Other people can correct me if I'm wrong. And check all this data here, and then you can just hit share, and it uploads. And now there's a new observation that somebody found a cat. Or you can just post something, you see something neat and you have no idea what it is. Take a picture and the community can go on and they can look at it and say, oh, you found cutleaf toothwort here in the park, which is a plant. So this is valuable for us, and I also introduce it because if you know where you put your seed balls, you can go back on a regular basis and take pictures of what you see there and help us track what's happening at those restoration sites. And even are the new species that we introduced here in these seed balls, are they actually starting to grow? And do we need to introduce more species if we find that nobody's observing anything interesting in that park? Do we need to add more? So that's my favorite one. St. Paul as a city is also involved in an initiative called the Mississippi River Cities and Towns Initiative. And that initiative is trying to track garbage pollution. So they're actually, something that St. Paul, we as Natural Resources is going to be doing a lot more of, is encouraging people, if they are out and they find garbage in the park and they're willing to pick it up, to log it in this one too. So these are just opportunities that you can continue tinkering when you're outside enjoying your socially distanced walk, or just the park, or the weather, which is surely right around the corner. Some opportunities there. So that is the conclusion of what I formally had available, but at programs like this, there are often questions that people have, whether they are directly related or just related to our park. So I thought I would leave some time to see what people had questions about, whether it's our parks, whether it's seed balls or seeds or plants, or iNaturalist, the app that lets you find and identify and share cool things and see what other people have seen, or whatever it is.
So I had a question about the citywide spring cleanup.
Yeah.
So there's going to be multiple locations, it says.
Yep.
Do you have any more information on that, or is that going to, is there a site? Oh, is it, you go to St. Paul Gov citywide cleanup and get more information there, or?
Yes, so we are still finalizing our list of site hosts. So we work with community partners, organizations in the community who are interested in and can staff that. So we are limited by staff by how many places that we can be and help people get situated and hand out supplies. So it's in the past, Como and Phelan have been. That's where I get sent as staff usually. Usually Frogtown Farm, we get them pretty spread out throughout the city. So if you go to stpaul.gov/citywide cleanup, shortly we will be posting the full list of the actual kickoff host sites.
Okay, I'm interested because that's like Earth Day.
Yep. It's not Earth Day. It is. Oh, yes, it is.
Well, it's the weekend.
It's the weekend after. Yep.
Yeah. Earth Day's in the middle of the week, right?
Yep. Susan was asking about, I'm just going to jump into Susan's here and then go back. Susan was asking about Seek. So Seek, capital SEEK, is the children's version of iNaturalist. So iNaturalist ties your observation, a picture of something, to a place, which is what makes it super helpful. Especially it's used for things like the rusty patch bumblebee, which is Minnesota's now state bee. It's endangered. It's been federally listed. And so letting people take pictures of bumblebees and post its locations can give researchers, even at the U of M, information about where this bee is currently living. And it's actually, we found it in places we didn't know it was because, an ordinary person was out looking at bumblebees on a flower and took a picture. So there is a national law that limits, it protects children's identities online. And it says that people under 18 can't be, you can't post geographic data about minors online. So you have to be 18 or over to use iNaturalist, because when you make an observation which is tied to your account, you're also posting the geographic data with it. And you could obscure the data if you don't want people to know exactly where you've been. You can make it random within a certain area. But yeah, there's a federal law that says children cannot use that sort of service. So iNaturalist developed another app called Seek, which does not track things. So it's less beneficial from a science standpoint or from a land manager standpoint on my side, because I don't get to see what you saw, but is a great and actually easier to use tool for kids or for people who just want to know what they're seeing. So Seek is neat because you open the app, you hold it up to a tree, and it takes a picture of the bark and it tells you what tree that is. And it's pretty good. So they're both great apps. One of them is really great for just helping you identify things. The other one, if you are over 18, I like more because I have access to what it is that you've been seeing.
What was the rain gauge thing that you were talking about?
Coco Raz. I think that's how it's spelled, and I'll try to pull it up. I believe I think it's organized by NOAA. The H and S are supposed to be capitalized. So you do have to get a special rain gauge, or a rain gauge that fits within the certain criteria of it. I can toss that in the link in the chat. The COCO-RAS stands for Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. So it's tracking precipitation of any sort. So the rain gauges, they're not the little ones that you can buy at a garden store and stick in the backyard. They're a little bit bigger, and it makes it easier to collect and measure snow in the winter. That's a really neat one. And you can see the map of sites all across the country, and you get some pretty interesting data about where was the hail and where was other things.
Whoa.
Other questions? Okay, well, we might be, that wraps up then what I have to contribute today. Ending a little bit early. I hope that is okay from the library's standpoint, that we didn't make it all the way, but I'll hand it back to Andrea and anybody else from the library who might be on. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Again, all of you have a role in ecosystem restoration. We as humans rely on our ecosystem and it relies on us, and we can all work together to keep it strong and healthy so that it continues to be there to take care of us and support and sustain us and all the things that we love about where we are. So thank you so much for participating and being interested and for helping.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was some really good information. And so they should be like dry and like overnight, do you think?
Yeah, depending on the humidity in your house, this time of year they dry up a little bit faster, depending on how much water you added. You can go throw them in the park while they're still wet. They don't need to be totally dry. It's just a little bit easier to handle them when they're dry. But overnight, I would say for sure you should be able to go out tomorrow and toss them somewhere.
Fun. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to let you know about some other programs that are coming up. The next Tinker Tuesday should be on the calendar this week sometime. And next Wednesday, we have a 2D design with Inkscape class. So if you ever wanted to learn how to do graphic designs, it's a free program for Windows, Mac, and Linux computers. So check that out. We have our Read Brave series. The main book is The Stars and the Blackness Between Them. So we have a lot of going on that. We have a series of books, fiction and nonfiction, that you can read. We also have, as part of that, we have the theme is owning our stories. So your kit includes this postcard, and you can fill it with anything you wanted to share, art, a poem, anything you'd like to share, and we're going to put them on social media. So send up by the 15th, and we'll share that. You see, as part of the Read Brave, there's going to be a community self-care event with, what is the name of the organization? Irreducible Grace Foundation. Interactive workshop for self-care, which we definitely need these days. So check that out. And thanks everybody for coming. I'll send another email with all the handouts and the map in case anyone didn't get them. If there's anyone who didn't sign up on sppl.org, you can just put your email in the chat and I'll send them to you. I also have an evaluation form, which is here, that you can fill out. We're always looking for some good ideas, and thanks again for Cindy for putting the kit together very nicely and making the handout with showing what kind of seeds are in there. And this will be recorded and we're going to put it on the web sometime. So thanks everybody for coming. Thank you, Mary. That was really great and informative, and it makes me excited about spring and nice weather and all that.
Yeah, get out there. It turns being outside in green spaces is good for your physical and mental health. So take care of yourselves and visit a park. Visit
your parks today and your libraries.
And your libraries. You can actually pick up materials at your parks to help you enjoy, or at your library to help you enjoy your park.
Yes. Many books on the flowers and plants of Minnesota that you can check out. Fun to see people, even if briefly. Yep.